What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Showdown live before lock. Get you guys ready for everything that is to come. Giants, Washington football team. I was going to say Commanders. My brain just kind of sputted out there a little bit, but hit that like button as we get going. Subscribe button, notification bell. Hello again. Been up forever. We're going to keep it rocking here. I'm going to be doing some NBA later tonight. It is just, it is wild times out here in California, but it's especially wild because I get my buddy Neil here on Sunday nights like I always do. It's been a nice addition to my schedule. I hope it's been a nice one for him as well. Has it been a nice Sunday for you, my friend?
It all depends on whatever the hell is going on in this Raiders game. Eric and I, for those who are unaware, Eric and I have opposite sweats going on right now. It looks like it was a touchdown.
Upheld touchdown, Keelan Cole.
All
right. Kick the field goal. I need rushing yards. I just want that 100-yard bonus from Jacobs. That's all I ask for in my life.
Yeah. So we need opposite things. I'm sweating for best ball primarily. I currently have a lot of teams getting in, but Josh Jacobs is 40% owned in best ball. So really all I've been hoping for, he made the extra point. It's going to overtime. All I was hoping for is this game to end. I wanted the Patriots to end the game, not have to worry about Josh Jacobs anymore. Eric is live to win a big tournament on DraftKings, needs Ramondre Stevenson, needs Josh Jacobs. So overtime is great for Eric. Not so great for me, but congrats to you, I guess.
Oh, well, I mean, not to put it that way. I mean, I'm 15 out right now, but it's actually conceivable because Ramondre Stevenson's 2% in the $3. The big $3 I'm live in, which is just wild to say. It doesn't look like it because I'm so far back at the moment, but I was scrolling through all the teams and there are no Jacobs and Stevenson combinations that are above me. So if I could get like a big play by Jacobs or something of that nature, that'd be great. I did bet the over of the game. I also took out all of my Derrick Henry and bet the over of 100 yards. I got that. And if I could still get Stevenson and Jacobs to somehow beat him, that would be the stone cold nuts.
Wait, but I thought, okay, we had agreed though that we're not cheering for Jacobs. We're both cheering. So we need Jacobs to get his 7 yards. He'll get the 100-yard bonus. Doesn't hurt me. It helps you. And then Ramondre can score a touchdown. That way we're both happy.
Sure.
All right.
That's fair. You know what? I like you enough. I can cheer for that. You. I'll take a couple grand, but here's the thing: 100K would be fun, and
100K
I would need something outrageous, I think, for that to happen in some capacity here. 32 seconds? Something tells me Belichick's just going to kneel this one. You're going to get those guys come out there, cowards. Ryan Tannehill 1-yard run. Oh, I'm very happy that was not Derrick Henry. Also, Derrick Henry, the leading receiver in that game, 4 catches for 59. Get GTFO. Really? What? Whatever. And also, EMAC.
R.I.P. Sorry, Emac.
He read my bet wrong, apparently. I said the over of it breaks my heart. But either way, we're going live here. We're sponsored by No House Advantage. Excited to talk about their product because overlay is the best thing you could possibly get in DFS, and there's tons of it every single day over there in the NFL streets, in the NBA streets. Head over to nohouseadvantage.com. Sign up using promo code Stokastic, $50 deposit bonus, but I'll talk about all those great things. We got to talk a little showdown. We've got a game here cometh. I'm going to be paying attention, obviously, to, these overtimes could get very, very wild in the complexity of this slate here. I'm not sure what's going on here in Cincinnati. They've got 33 now. That happened quickly. Joe Burrow to something Mitchell Wilcox. That's not normal.
I'm just glad it wasn't Jamar Chase because I'm getting crushed by a friend of mine in my keeper league. Not getting crushed. I'm actually winning currently, but he has the defense coming up. He's currently favored to win, and I have like a juggernaut. Like I traded all of my best young assets to win it all this year, and now I might lose in the first round. So cheering against Jamar Chase. I'm okay with Mitchell Wilcox.
Ryan Loudon, best cash game captain tonight, guys. I will get to that here in a second. Probably a good segue into actually talking a little bit of football. But as I said, as you guys get in here, hit that like button. Excited to talk this slate. And I was paying attention to inactives because there's one major piece that I thought mattered. That was Daniel Bellinger. He is active for tonight. So there you go. Now I think we kind of know what's before us. Anything you want to talk about, Giants, Commanders, before we get started?
It's it's a low scoring game, so maybe we'll find spots to get different. Giants have a terrible defense, so hopefully, maybe we'll see Antonio Gibson get going a little bit. Brian Robinson, maybe one of these guys will have a big game. I don't know. Nothing. I haven't looked at it too closely yet. I've looked at the tools just a little bit, but I'm going to be pulling up all the things that I usually look at to do better analysis as we go on the show.
Oh, yeah. Well, we go position by position. We'll break it all down here from the onset. It is the Giants. It is the Commanders. It is a 40.5 NFC North bloodbath. That is what we're looking forward to in this one. These two idiot teams decided to tie a football game like this is soccer or something. They didn't even have a tie today, so it is what it is. That was the best soccer game I've probably ever seen in my life, but I was also working during it. Just hashtag what a life. But looking at the quarterback position here, we now have the road Giants here coming into Washington, and Daniel Jones can get it done with his legs. Hasn't so much gotten it done through the air this season, but averaging south of 200 yards per game, not ideal, but he's been efficient. 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. This team's been successful for the most part. 7-5-1 is really, really good for what I expected coming into this season, what a lot of people expected coming into this season for the Giants. What do you think about Daniel Jones for DFS purposes tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones always playable. He's got the rushing upside that you love to have in a quarterback. Pretty not quite elite level, but like he's up there. He's a pretty solid rusher. Just looking at our tools, he looks like the kind of guy you want to play. He's 11% projected ownership in the captain spot, 11% chance of being optimal. So pretty neutral there. Obviously in the util, 47% ownership, 52% chance of being optimal. I think he's the kind of guy that in the captain spot, I'm not playing without any pass catchers. I want to have at least one pass catcher if I play him in the captain spot. But I think that I might even think about playing him in the flex without any pass catchers. Not I mean, in a 150 set. I'm not saying that I would play, that would be my goal, like what I would want to do, but I think I would allow for it in a 150 set. And if I got to like 3 or 4 lineups with Daniel Jones in the flex with no pass catchers from the Giants, I think I might be okay with it because he's got that rushing upside.
He kind of is similar to a lot of these showdown slates. You get these running quarterbacks and you don't necessarily need another piece. And, I'm always thinking about correlation, always thinking about what other people are doing, and feel like sometimes in showdown, you want to get away from what everybody else is doing, which is obviously putting a quarterback with pass catchers. It almost feels weird to put him with 3 pass catchers on a slate like this. No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need. I mean, unless you consider Saquon a pass catcher, which I mean, you should consider Saquon a pass catcher. Then I think you can play him with 3 pass catchers. Not something that I would ever force, but honestly, if it came up in my builds, if I got to 3 Giants pass catchers, particularly if I had Jones in the captain spot, I'd be okay with having him with 3 pass catchers. It's a little bit more thin if you're playing him in the flex and have 3 pass catchers elsewhere, just because to get 3 pass catchers there, he has to be throwing the ball kind of a lot, and then he's probably putting enough points to be optimal. Still something you could do, but generally, if I have him in the captain spot, I'd be more okay with having 3 pass catchers from the Giants.
Oh, I misspoke. I'm a Minnesota Vikings, the winners of the NFC North. Misspoke. NFC East, obviously. NFC North. That's our team. That's
our team.
King of the North. That's us. Feels good. Feels right.
Yeah.
What a game yesterday, my friend.
That was incredible.
I really have no words. I had to break my Twitter hiatus. I had to break my word. It was so sad. Chargers, field goal. They're going to win this football game. 17-14 there. I'm checking back in here. Let's see. Nope. It's going to be 3rd and 10 here. 10 seconds left in that Vegas one here. The Patriots just lost in the worst possible way. What just happened?
What did just happen? Oh, no.
Pick 6. What happened?
I'm very confused. I don't know. Mine is still showing Keelan Cole being the latest touchdown.
Yep.
Is anybody in chat watching this? Everybody's saying unbelievable. Okay, yeah, they must have thrown an interception, or I'm sorry, Eric. Fumble, recover for a touchdown. Okay, and pick 6 somebody else says. So defensive touchdown, Eric. I'm sorry. That's brutal.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's back terrible. To the football at hand. Well, that's so stupid. I was getting overtime. Why?
Yeah. That's like they gave you so much hope right at the end. It seemed like they could have just knelt the ball, and yeah. I mean, I didn't think they were going to with that much time left on the clock, but man,
Pats tried laterals. Why? You could have gone to overtime. What are you doing?
Did they really? Yeah, that's brutal.
Oh my God. Okay. Fun. Eric, what? I mean, I just wanted overtime very, very badly. I got my over. I'll live, but Stevenson had a huge run too. So Stevenson got yardage and then
Nice.
something bad happened, that would be like the ultimate kick in the dick.
What would be?
Oh, I just needed 7 from Jacobs so badly. All right. Oh, yeah. That's pain. That's suffering.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we continue on to the other side of this one. Terry McLaurin, again, quarterback play. It's a showdown slate, so you're obviously going to be making room for these guys in your lineups. That's the way that things go. But you got to also keep in mind that these are not your 2 ideal quarterbacks to have in a showdown slate where you want to play lots of them. Much more interested in the Daniel Jones side. I think everybody kind of is just because of that rushing upside. But Terry McLaurin, gotta say, feels pretty slim for me. I feel like I want to find paths to get away from him, even at the quarterback position, being such a tight range of outcomes.
Do you mean Taylor Heineke?
That's what I said, Taylor Heineke.
Okay, I thought you were saying.
What did I say?
Terry McLaurin.
Oh my God, I'm just so tilted.
Yeah, you're upset. I get it. You're very upset. Taylor Heineke looks fine to me. So yes, Daniel Jones, the better quarterback. I do love the matchup for Taylor Heineke though. He has not. I actually want to look up his rushing stats while we're talking about, because in my head, Taylor Heineke is a pretty good rusher, but I think he's actually not as good as I think he is. Like his first game he rushed really well, and then since then, just let me double check. Yeah, he has not been much of a rusher so far this year. He's started 7 times. He's rushed 21 times, so 3 times per game. Only 67 yards, under 10 yards per game. Yeah, he has not been the rusher that I thought he was, at least last year. So yeah, that really does limit the upside of Taylor Heineke. But with that said, he has a pretty clear connection with Terry McLaurin, who just has been a target monster ever since Taylor Heineke took over at quarterback. Got 12 targets for Terry McLaurin in the most recent game, actually against this Giants team. Did they just play? What is going on? Did they just play and tie this Giants team in week 13?
Sure did.
Huh. I missed that. Back to back.
Yeah.
I said see that in the NFL very often.
No, it's pretty wild. But
okay.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it.
In this very matchup, in the most recent game, Terry McLaurin.
Well, and this game got flexed, I do believe, too. This was supposed to be during the regular. I don't know what it got flexed for, but it's kind of a weird game to want to have in primetime. I suppose, this division's been absurd, so it makes sense. They're both vying for playoff spots, still 7-5-1 identical records. It's a big game. There's no question, but still feel like Terry, I almost said Terry McLaurin again. Taylor Heineke. There you go. Taylor Heineke is just a problem when it comes to trying to build out for this showdown, because I don't know. If I'm building one lineup, I don't know if I want him to be a part of it. I'm building more than one lineup, and I still don't know how much of him I want to be getting to. Feels like the one play that I might try to find paths to get away from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a good quarterback. I will say in that last game, so I don't know why, but they let him throw it 41 times. That is compared to it's the first time this year that he's been above 33 pass attempts. That was his first game against Green Bay, 33 pass attempts, then 31. And then he's been in the 20s. He had been for 4 straight games. The most recent game against the Giants got up to 41 pass attempts, which is, sort of interesting. With that kind of volume, even a bad quarterback can put up some numbers. He did have 2 passing touchdowns in that game. Not that that's something you really need to be paying attention to game log watching, but kind of interesting that the most recent game, they let him kind of let loose a little bit. But in general, yeah, he's not a great quarterback. I think the best thing you can say about Taylor Heineke is he's playing against this Giants defense that is 26th in terms of pass DVOA, 31st in terms of rush DVOA. Just not a great defense. He should, be able to move, or the team should be able to move the ball if they can move it on anybody against this Giants team.
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of the backs here. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. The Giants side, feeling pretty comfortable. Daniel Jones, Saquon. I think most people are, but I am refreshing some of the tools here too, and there is some positive leverage now that's coming in on Taylor Heineke. So maybe I have to kind of reconsider that. 48.3% utility optimal, 44% utility ownership. If people are thinking the same way I do, where you've watched Taylor Heineke play football and you don't feel all that great about clicking on it, game manager type, continues to have the job over Carson Wentz. I mean, not that Carson Wentz is any good himself, but at least has some explosiveness for the offense, or adds an element to the offense you feel like you don't have with Heineke. Still, he's a quarterback. He's going to show up in some of these builds. How do you feel about him as a captain selection, though?
Taylor Heineke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, looking at the tools, 10% projected ownership, 10.4% chance of being optimal. I tend to follow the tools with these things in general. It's a pretty good indicator. And that makes sense to me. Like Taylor Heineke, he is a quarterback on a 1-game slate. Like, it doesn't really matter how good we think he is as an actual NFL quarterback. He's a quarterback on a 1-game slate, and he is the quarterback with the much better matchup here. Even he hasn't shown much rushing upside so far this year, but we've seen it in the past. Maybe he could have a spike week in terms of rushing. So, that helps a little bit. And then, if they are gonna, if the last game was the start of a trend where they're gonna let him air it out a little bit, I kind of doubt that that's the case. But if it is, if he's throwing the ball 40 times against this Giants defense, good things are, maybe going to happen. I can't say they will happen with Taylor Heineke, but there's at least an opportunity for good things to happen. So I think that he is a solid captain play. I would want at least one pass catcher, but my preference would be to have 2 or 3 pass catchers from the Commanders. If you have probably 2, if you have Taylor Heineke in the captain spot, and that would include Antonio Gibson as well.
Okay. Well, anything else from the quarterback position to cover?
No, I think that we covered these guys pretty well. I mean, they're both, as we say, quarterbacks on a 1-game slate, almost always playable. And these two, I think, just because Daniel Jones is a legitimately like good fantasy quarterback because of the rushing upside. So even though he has a tough matchup, he's a pretty solid play. And then Taylor Heineke, not a great fantasy quarterback, but then because he's got the great matchup, I think they're both definitely playable.
Nick Asteras, if you can't run, you cannot be my DFS quarterback anymore. Well, you can on a 1-game slate.
Right.
I think that's what we're kind of saying, is that I'm not enthusiastic about it. I built out my main team. I'm not going to have Taylor Heineke in that one, but there are a lot of other paths for things that I want to get to. Just like there's a lot of paths for you guys to get free tools and content here at Stokastic, and the best one is by far BetMGM. Right now, 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum when you sign up at BetMGM and take advantage of their $1,000 risk-free bet. Now, you don't have to put $1,000 in. You want to use up as much as you can because it's completely risk-free. So maybe you're comfortable with $10, deposit $10, play $10. You're going to get those 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum. Deposit 100, deposit 500, whatever it is. That first bet you make, no matter what it is, you get it risk-free up to $1,000. That is a phenomenal deal. These are the kind of things you want to take advantage of at sportsbooks so that you can build that bankroll. You can sustain that bankroll. And as an addition, you're going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum. You guys are watching a DFS show. The showdown tools that we're going to have for tonight, for Monday, not just that, 2 months of NBA tools. We're going to have so much MMA content. PGA content will be here before you know it in 2.5, 3 weeks. So looking forward to that, getting started in Kapalua for the PGA Tour at the Tournament of Champions. Some of you guys don't give a shit, and that's just fine. But all of the great NFL content now through the end of the season, you will have available to you because the Super Bowl, I believe, is 2 months from now. Every single game for every single slate, you're going to have covered with that 2 months of Stokastic Platinum. So take advantage of that. Head to the link below, deposit $10 or more, and when that first bet you make, that risk-free bet that you make gets settled, you get those 2 free months. So check that out. Amazing, amazing offer. Pretty cool. We're still running that here with BetMGM. So take advantage of that. Enjoy. I just saw that play. What in the absolute hell was Jakobi Meyers doing?
That was Jakobi Meyers, my guy, the guy that I've been touting as a great best ball play. He messed up.
Well, and he was a quarterback once upon a time, remember? Back in college, I think he was a quarterback. He chucked that back to Mac Jones. I mean, that was like, what are you doing, dude?
I mean, what do you think that was the play call? Or was it just?
It can't be. He could not have known that was the score. There's no way. He had to have thought that they were like down 6 or down 1 or something. Because 24-24, he hit the ground there. It's zeros on the clock. Stevenson has a big run. And then there's no way that was the play call. Stevenson needs to hit the ground there. I think he was trying to give it to Jakobi Meyers so Jakobi Meyers could run out of bounds, but there was like no time. It was also that dump truck of Mac Jones is incredible. Did you see the play yet?
No,
all right, I'm sending it to you. You got to find it.
All right.
Gage also completely nuked the slate. So shout out to the boss man. He's pretty good at this. I hope that helped his WFC teams or WFFC teams. But let's do the running back position. And the conversation starts with Saquon Barkley. It has to. We haven't seen as much production from him of late, but this has to be a spot where you want to be invested in Saquon Barkley. I'm making one lineup. He is currently my captain. I'm probably going to look at a way to get to Antonio Gibson on the other side of this one because he is pulling more positive leverage. But Saquon, he is negatively leveraged, and it's almost hard to care because you got to use the salary somewhere. How do you feel about Saquon Barkley tonight?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how much negative leverage we have on him. 12% projected ownership in the captain spot with a 4% chance of being optimal. You don't see that much negative leverage that often. And then in the util, we actually have, I'm more surprised to see that he has negative leverage also in the util, where we have him projected for 41% ownership, 39% chance of being optimal. That's really interesting. You do, as you say, you do need to spend that salary somewhere. Saquon seems like as good a bet as anybody to have a big game. He's so involved in the passing game, so involved in the rushing game. I'm pretty surprised to see how infrequently he ends up optimal in our sims. It might just be the salary. Like, he is really expensive. He is 12,200. That's 2,000 more expensive than the next most expensive player on the slate. So it might just be that, we don't have that many great, really cheap options. We have a lot of like pretty good mid-range options. So it might just be a matter of, Saquon being 12,200. That's pretty cost prohibitive, especially in the captain spot. When you're multiplying it by 1.5, that becomes really cost prohibitive. But I'm surprised to see that we also have negative leverage in the util spot. I would think that Saquon would be one of the first places I'd want to go in the util. I think it's a spot where I'm probably going to be close to the field. I mean, despite the negative leverage, I think especially in the util spot, it's hard for me not to want to play around 40% Saquon. In the captain spot, I could see coming in under the field if the field's going to be at 11%. But in the util, I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that salary they nuked up on DraftKings. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it's just a wild kind of build, and it's a wild scenario that you don't run into very often, where you have somebody that isn't projecting out as well as you would really want, but he's so expensive relative to it. Generally, what happens is it ends up being like a Lamar Jackson up there. It ends up being a Devontae Adams, somebody that unquestionably has the highest projection. But Saquon Barkley, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily justified, but I think that in the captain spot, maybe that lowers it. Maybe I'm overthinking it. We only have 3.6% captain optimal ownership on him. How wild is that? 3.6% of the time. That can't be correct.
Yeah, it seemed, but then so did something happen to Saquon that I'm missing? Like, I apparently missed an injury or something, because I'm looking just through his game logs in the most recent game against the Eagles in week 14.
Oh, they got murdered.
Is that all it was?
Yeah, no, they were in a major. It was just they got murdered from the get-go, and he's a bell cow. I think that that's one thing that can be very, very noisy, and I think I notice it a lot more in the prop market when you start talking about the difference between mean and median. People are like, "Oh, well, he's averaging this, he's averaging that." Well, part of that average is a dude in Saquon Barkley who would have played 90% of the snaps in the event that game was competitive. And it just wasn't. So we've only played 31% of the snaps. That's going to make you look really, really bad. It's not anything to do with injury. He was a full participant in practice the entire latter part of last week. So I feel pretty good about him, but the tools obviously do not.
Okay, yeah. I'm just looking through Twitter on December 15th. Saquon says that yesterday was his best practice of the season, demonstrates some juke moves. So
there it is.
Definitely not injury concern. I'm surprised because Saquon is a guy who is so typically so involved in the passing game as well that I think of him as being kind of game script proof, but this is a clear indicator that maybe he's not as game script proof as I want him to be. I mean, usually he's involved, 50% often or more in terms of route participation. Just only played 32% of snaps. He had 9 carries, 7 routes run in the last game. Just was not involved at all. So, but I don't think that's as big a concern here because I don't see Washington, putting them to bed in the first half.
Yeah, nor do I. I don't see that either. I mean, I don't see points anywhere in this game, really. I could see it being very low scoring. That shouldn't surprise anybody as a freaking 40.5 total. But I think when we start talking some of the complexities, let's first talk Matt Breida, I suppose. We should talk about the other side of that one. Matt Breida, who's the other guy that they have going right now? It's just
Gary Brightwell.
Yeah, Gary Brightwell has started getting mixed in, but I don't look into anything that happened last week. We had 88% of the snaps the week before that against Washington in that tie game for Saquon. That game script just completely removed the need to put Saquon in harm's way last week.
Yeah.
And it's not a game they expected to win against Philadelphia. So you punt that, you save him up, and you unleash him here. But any
Yeah.
interest in these two ancillary backs for the football team?
Yeah, let me just agree with you there that this is a game that they need to win. So I imagine that you're
Mhm.
right that they got behind and they're like, let's not risk Saquon here, save him for a game that we need to win next week. So I do think they're going to unleash Saquon here, especially since there is no injury concern. So yeah, I like Saquon quite a bit because I think that that's the case. I don't see Gary Brightwell and Matt Breida being extremely involved this week. I just looking through their game logs prior to last week, Breida had played since after their bye week, he'd played 20%, 20%, 28%, 14%, and then last week 36% of snaps. And then Brightwell 9%, 17%, 33% of snaps. So obviously we know that there is a game script where these guys get more involved. If it is a blowout by the third, fourth quarter, maybe these guys get a lot of run. I don't think that's as I said, as big of a concern here against the Commanders, just because they don't have a great offense. They're probably not going to be, putting 3 touchdowns up on the Giants. So it's a lot less likely that Saquon is going to be neutralized and that they're going to just, go to the backup running back. So I think that they're not my favorite plays. Let me see what are the price tags here we're dealing with. We got Gary Brightwell at 2,600. Yeah, I mean that's probably more expensive than his expected role in the offense. And then Matt Breida, we've got at 3,000. We've got negative leverage. We're projecting Breida for 5% ownership, 1% chance of being optimal. Gary Brightwell, 2.6% ownership, 0% chance of being optimal. Now, obviously, there are scenarios where these guys come in. There is we've talked about this a lot recently because we've had a lot of situations where running backs on these showdown slates have gotten hurt and the backup comes in and obviously they're relevant. We saw it with both Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris last week when Ramondre Stevenson got hurt. Suddenly became very relevant and great plays after Ramondre Stevenson went out. If he had not been hurt, they would have not seen the field or barely seen the field at all. And same thing with the Steelers the week before. We saw Najee Harris get hurt. We saw Benny Snell come in and play a big role, and he was optimal. So there are scenarios where these guys are optimal in the expected game script or lack of if there are no injuries and there's no blowout. I don't really see Breida and Brightwell having much role in the offense. So they've got those outs, but in the expected game script, these guys are a little bit too expensive where it's like, a goal line touchdown. I mean, it might be enough in this game just because it's probably going to be a low scoring game. There are scenarios for these guys to get there, even at these price tags, like even 3,000 for Matt Breida. If he scores a touchdown on the goal line, this is a game where that could be enough just because there might not be a ton of scoring and ball movement in this game. But it's a little bit thin. I just don't think that they're going to have, the opportunities to really get there.
All right, off to the head scratcher of the day. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. They had a bye in week 14. Week 13, 50-50 basically, 47% of the snaps there for Brian Robinson. I have no idea what we're supposed to do with these two other than play a bunch of them. Antonio Gibson has the most positive leverage, which makes it seem as though maybe people want to be clicking on Brian Robinson, but he has positive leverage too. These both are coming in under owned, and maybe we just jam both of them tonight, but I would like to make some kind of a stand on which one I prefer. Can you help me? Because this is truly, I think, the most important part of this slate.
So just looking at their most recent game, which was again against this Giants team, Brian Robinson had 21 carries. Like he's just been, I mean, not just that game. Looking through his game logs, he's getting a ton of carries. Each of the past 4 weeks, 26 carries, 15 carries, 18 carries, 21 carries. He's been very involved. Maybe he's live to get that 100-yard bonus against this Giants defense. He's not nearly as involved in the passing game. The most recent 4 games, just 10 routes run, 5, 7, and 6. So he's just not really involved in the passing game, whereas Antonio Gibson is kind of the opposite. The past 4 games, I'll just go there again. 14 carries, 18 carries, 9 and 9 for Antonio Gibson, but then 19 routes run, 16, 14, and 23. So I think they're both playable, and I do think that it's definitely live. Like it's not a bad idea to play them together, especially in what I expect to be a relatively low-scoring game. I think that is something that not a lot of people want to do. We've talked about this a lot. A lot of people on showdown slates want to just name a guy, be like, "This is the running back who's going to do well today. That's the guy I'm going to play." So a lot of people don't play two running backs from the same team. I think it's something that is definitely viable here. We've got, let's see, Brian Robinson is 8,000, Antonio Gibson 7,600. A little bit more expensive than I'd like them to be, but I've said it before. If they are running all over this Giants team, which again, this Giants team is 31st in terms of rush DVOA and 26th in terms of pass DVOA. If they get a lead, they might just be able to run it all over this team. They probably don't want Taylor Heineke throwing the ball 41 times. So I think that there are scenarios where they're just crushing the Giants and they can do it on the ground, and that's probably their preference, to just run them into the ground, and they've got two capable backs. So I definitely think it's viable to play both these guys. And then again, I'll tell you what the tools say. Brian Robinson, 11% projected ownership in the captain spot, 10% chance to be an optimal. So a little bit of negative leverage there, but not anything I'm concerned with. And then in the util, 40% projected ownership, 46% chance to be an optimal. So some positive leverage in the util for Brian Robinson. And then Antonio Gibson, actually positive leverage in both. 10.6% projected ownership in the captain spot. I don't know why I round it sometimes and don't round it other times, but 11% projected ownership in the captain spot, 12% chance of being optimal. And then in the util, 36% projected ownership, 42% chance of being optimal. So positive leverage there as well. I think my slight preference is Antonio Gibson on DraftKings in particular, just because of the PPR, because he is so involved in the passing game. On FanDuel, let me look at the price tags. We've got Brian Robinson at 13,000, Antonio Gibson at 12,000. It's again going to be Antonio Gibson for me, coming in at a little bit lower ownership, both in the captain spot and the util spot, but it's closer for me. I think, Brian Robinson, again, I actually think for DraftKings, even Brian Robinson is very live to get that 100-yard bonus. If he's rushing it 20 plus times against this Giants defense, I think that he's very alive to get that 100-yard bonus. And then Antonio Gibson's got that PPR upside, so I like both of these running backs quite a bit in this matchup.
Yeah, it's gonna be something that maybe I'm overthinking a little bit. I feel like I always want to have a stand. I think that that's something that once in a while I would call it a fault of mine sometimes on these shows, is that you try to have opinions, you try to be opinionated, and sometimes I just don't know. And the more I look into it, obviously you think of Antonio Gibson as more of the pass catching back. He's had that role, but it hasn't been crazy volume for him at any point in time. He had the one game with 7 targets. Well, he had 2 actually with 7 targets, week 1 and week 8. Otherwise, he hasn't received more than 4 targets in a game this entire season. So
That is true.
outside of those two. So it's one of those things where maybe we overthink that sometimes. And you look at Brian Robinson, 2 and 3 targets the last couple, it's kind of on par with it. Maybe we just play a ton of both. And I don't think about it too much. Look at Marlon Mack and Latavius Murray today. I mean, ridiculous example, not showdown, or you could have played showdown, but you would have been a sick person. No problem with both running backs in a game against a bad run stopping team, just jamming a bunch of both.
Yeah, exactly. One other note here, we're looking like we're maybe going to see overlay or at least reduced rake again. 69,000, pretty nice number of entries so far out of 98,000
Nice.
possible entries. So
Nice.
we're half an hour away. I think that we might see at least reduced rake. So maybe this is a night where you could consider upping your volume a little bit on DraftKings.
Oh, look at that. Can't wait to build more on this show. That's going to go well. Not going to get me in trouble in any way, shape, or form.
It might be because people like myself, like I'm so invested in Showdown. I'm so right now invested in my best ball lineups that I'm like, I didn't set up my fantasy cruncher. I haven't done anything to prepare my actual lineups for this slate. So I'm planning on playing low volume, and now I'm kind of regretting it that I haven't set up my fantasy cruncher to, so I'm probably just going to be hand building a little bit, but probably a lot of people are like watching their best ball. They're watching it's the first round of the playoffs for a lot of people in season long league. So people are like, I don't need to play showdown tonight. So you can take advantage of that and, maybe get reduced rake here.
There's something named a Jonathan Williams who plays football for Washington. I can't do it.
Yeah. I don't really see the need. He's not going to be the guy, even if one of these guys gets hurt, he's not going to come in and just be like the bell cow. Like, pretty clearly they've got these two are the guys that are going to get run. Jonathan Williams has played 7 total snaps over the past 2 games, and then had not played for several weeks prior to that. So I don't think we need to consider him.
All right. We got half an hour until lock. Making great time. crushing the game. Hit that like button for my guy Neil over there, and then head to No House Advantage. And this is where you want to go right now. If you haven't set up your cruncher the way Neil has, maybe Neil should hop on over to No House Advantage here tonight using promo code Stokastic. Get himself $50 for a first match deposit bonus. If you put $50 in, you're going to get 50 back. Guys, the thing that makes you the most money in the long term is overlay. Period. End of story. Neil's bringing it up for a specific reason. Neil does this for a living. He is phenomenal at the old game of DFS. And it's because he takes advantage of things like this. When sites are giving you money to go play over there, just do it. No House Advantage. This $10, yeah, $10, a better price point than the $15 they have for the main slate or the early slate. We are talking the Sunday Night Football Showdown, 5K to first, $10 is 40% full. 40% full. That is nothing. You want to be checking out No House Advantage here tonight for this showdown slate. A great showdown. And somebody else earlier was saying, oh, I don't want to play this one. This is an ugly game. It's a terrible one to bet, in my opinion. I would bet the exact opposite. I would say the exact opposite. These are the kind of sludge fests that are only fun because of what we do. Yeah. Only because of, things like No House Advantage and playing over at DK and FanDuel and everywhere else. Those are the things that make these kind of games fun and enjoyable for us. So take advantage of free money while it's being given to you, and then use the best tools in the industry that are given to you for free at Stokastic. Yeah, you heard me. Go to stokastic.com, go over to the NFL tab, scroll on down to the free lineups. Yes, there are free lineups already pre-made for you for the Sunday Night Football Showdown, as well as free projections showing you the best props that exist on the board for tonight. So go to No House Advantage, check that out. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship of our lovely little show. So many other shows here at Stokastic here on the YouTubes, but appreciate them. You will appreciate all of the great things that they have to offer over there, as well as Versus the House, which is similar to competitor sites where, they have, 10x for 5 out of 5 and things of that nature. But here you get 21x. Yeah, 21x your money when you go 5 of 5 over there. A little bit of an upgrade, a gigantic upgrade over other competitors. They have some NBA props that are available here in the next 6 minutes if you want to jump in for that Charlotte game, if you want to jump in for that Denver game. I saw Jokic is active. That's going to get bonkers. So take advantage of everything over at No House Advantage, my friends. Cool. We go back to the wide receiver position over at the Giants-Washington game here that we are so eloquently talking about. And Terry McLaurin has a connection of sorts with Taylor Heinicke. It's been pretty prevalent. Curtis Samuel had more of a connection with Carson Wentz. Still, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do when I see this ownership coming in as much as what it is on Terry McLaurin. I know everybody else has the exact same opinion I do. It makes me want to kind of go more towards the Curtis Samuel route. How are you feeling about these two main wide receiver options from the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see how much negative leverage we have on Terry McLaurin. Again, it's probably just that price tag being relatively high. Actually, sorry, I'm looking at FanDuel right now. So let me turn. Okay, so he's 9,800. Okay, it looks actually only slight negative leverage on Terry McLaurin, actually coming in at more reasonable ownership on DraftKings. 12% projected ownership in the captain spot, 10% chance to be an optimal. So slight negative leverage there. Util also some slight negative leverage, 37% projected ownership, 36% chance of being optimal. Man, Terry McLaurin is just, he has double-digit targets in 2 of the last 4 games, and then 7 and 6 in between there. 9, 5 games. He's been so much more involved in the offense with Taylor Heinicke. It kind of makes me want to play Terry McLaurin, but that's why we have these tools, right? It helps us make these decisions, and the tools say, yeah, he's looking like he's a little bit over-owned, and Curtis Samuel is looking like the guy who's, he's also 3,200 cheaper than Terry McLaurin, so it's not even just like we're saying that he's straight up a better play, like in terms of what we're going to get out of him from an actual fantasy point standpoint. It's just point per dollar. Curtis Samuel looks much better. 5.7% projected ownership in the captain spot, 6.8% chance of being optimal, and then in the util, 26.2% projected ownership, and then 30.6% chance to be an optimal. So we actually have positive leverage on Curtis Samuel. I think I'm with you. I think that this is a spot where, despite all of that, the chemistry that Heinicke has with McLaurin, we're getting Curtis Samuel at a discount, and it's kind of hard to ignore that.
It's fantastic that we're on the same page there, because it's just one of those uncomfortable things where I know Terry McLaurin's the main option. Everybody does, but there's negative leverage, and I can go to a guy who's cheaper, who's positively leveraged. Yeah, a lot of skill position players from the Washington side, surprisingly, being the more positively leveraged. And Curtis Samuel is right up there with Gibson and Robinson, the two running backs. Joey Sly from the kicker position as well, more positively leveraged than anything we're looking at on the Giants side. So I feel very good about getting to more Curtis Samuel. I don't feel great about being lower on Terry McLaurin, but I think it's kind of a necessity for the sake of leverage, because then when things do work out for you, you get paid. So Terry McLaurin, maybe just not today. Just not today. That'd be great.
So, oh, you mean like don't do well today, not like don't play him today at all? Because I mean, I know you say that you try to have takes, you try to like take stands, and I'm like kind of the opposite. Like I'm like, here's the info that we have. Here's what I'm thinking I would do with the info. I guess I'm not going to have a full set of lineups tonight, but I think that, I mean, Terry McLaurin still, just like looking at their routes run numbers in the past few games, Terry McLaurin, 100%, 87%, 78%, 83%, 85%. Curtis Samuel, the past 5 games, 68%, 78%, 74%, 61%, 67%. So he doesn't run nearly the same number of routes as Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, the pretty clear wide receiver one here. But I think that with Curtis Samuel, it's kind of a bet on talent, right? Like we know that they want to get him the ball because they know he's a talented receiver. They even, let him rush it sometimes. So yeah, I think just the reduced salary for Curtis Samuel makes him really interesting on a slate like this.
Kevin Durant dropped 26 points in the third quarter against the Pistons. Yikes,
Damn.
Scoob. That seems good. Kyrie's got 32 himself. Good Lord. Wow. All right. Just checking in on Bojan. I had to do it. The people, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. That's for sure. Love that man. But other wide receiver options that exist that aren't those top two from the Washington side, it's slim, but Jahan Dotson was a freak at Penn State. I absolutely adored him. We've seen some upside from him earlier in the season. We just saw it again week 13 before the bye in this exact same matchup. I'm not sure what to do with him today. Talk me into Jahan Dotson if you're actually going there.
Yeah, so I actually do really like Jahan Dotson here, just because we're seeing actually not positive leverage in the tools, but I still think that it's a spot that I really do like. 1.5% projected ownership in the captain spot, actually positive leverage there, 2.1% chance of being optimal. And then in the util, 15% projected ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. So we do have some negative leverage on Dotson in the tools. I still think that it's a spot where I do really like him. He has been running a lot of routes, 79% of routes in the most recent game. That's been an uptick. So, he missed a lot of time. But then in week 10, his first game back after missing 5 games, he played 41% of snaps in week 10. Then he 66% week 11, 61% week 12, 79% snap count in the most recent game for Jahan Dotson. Seems like a positive trend. Could be nothing, could be a blip, but it's at least a good indicator that, he played 79% of snaps. That's in his potential range of outcomes. And we know that he's talented, and we know that it's a great matchup with the Giants. So if he's going to play anything close to 79% of snaps, and we're seeing only 15% projected ownership, it's hard for me not to want to play some Jahan Dotson. I think that he's actually a spot where I would be probably above the field.
Okay, that's great because I loved him in college. I'm just not sure if it felt point chasey, and obviously the positive leverage aspect. But it's weird to be playing so much of Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson, but not be as high on Heineke. Kind of feels strange, but it's a PPR set, and then primarily on DK. Over on FanDuel, I want to give a shout out to FanDuel just because, I want to give you guys some attention too. Curtis Samuel is your most positively leveraged guy. I did build a couple lineups over there. I think it's great. Taylor Heineke also has some positive leverage there, as does Dotson. So I think on FanDuel, where he's a big body, he can definitely go up and get you those touchdowns and maybe really express that upside. He's a guy on FanDuel I would have a lot of interest if I were making more lineups, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would have interest. What do we have? We have him projected for 6.5%. Yeah,
It's absurd.
Is that right? 6.
It's low.
6.7% ownership. Yeah, he's definitely a guy that I would have a lot of. I mean, his price tag is 9,000, so it maybe seems a little bit rich for a guy who hasn't really done much. But yeah, I think that he's going to be a great play if he really does come in at that low ownership. I've talked about this before. On FanDuel in particular, I love finding those guys who are getting really low ownership, who clearly have a chance to score a touchdown, because on FanDuel it matters so much. Like the volume matters so much less on FanDuel. Of course, this isn't really a great example of that because he has volume. Like, he's on the field a lot anyway, and he could have volume as well. But a guy who's going to get low ownership, who has clear upside, I like him quite a bit.
Oh, I didn't see Nas Reed was injured. I don't even know why I'm talking about NBA. Cool. That's Payne, 100% of him. No big
Yeah.
deal.
Yep.
That was just a free square. I will take the bullet on an injury. He could have been 99% owned and I would have played 100. But let's go to the other side of this one, to the Giants side here. 18 minutes to go. We're making great time. Darius Slayton, kind of your primary option, but Isaiah Hodgins, that projection is starting to come up there. But all of these guys, every single one, it looks like on the Giants side, has some type of negative leverage coming in on them. That makes it difficult to say I want to prioritize anything. I just actually updated Isaiah Hodgins now positively leveraged, which makes total sense considering that projection up there next to Slayton. Slayton, more name recognition. Talk to me about the wide receiver side from the Giants.
Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins. Yes, Hodgins. No, okay, good. I had to reread that a few times.
Vanessa
Yeah,
Hodgins. Yeah.
yeah,
Hudgens.
Hodgins.
I
Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins, 89% of snaps in week 14, 80% in week 13. He's another player. We've seen an uptick in snaps recently. Like, he barely played at all for the first 9 weeks of the season. And then week 10, 62% of snaps, 59 in week 11, 70% in week 12, 80% in week 13, 89% in week 14. So they clearly like what he's been showing. And he's got pretty decent numbers. As you said, some positive leverage on Isaiah Hodgins here in both the utility spot and the captain spot. 3.3% projected ownership in the captain spot, 4% chance of being optimal, 22% in the util, 23% chance of being optimal. So slight positive leverage in both spots. He's just 5,600. Let me look up what are his how many targets has he been getting? Because he's been popping in the tools like for a
a
couple weeks, a
while.
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he must be getting some. Let me see.
I just X'd out of every single tab. You ever do
Yes.
that when you're on shows? It's the absolute stone cold worst, but
Yeah, it's terrible.
happens.
So I luckily I did pull it up, so I can tell you the two most recent games. 83% of routes he ran, and then the most recent game, 85%. So he has been running a lot of routes. Looks good. Yeah, I mean, if he's going to get that kind of, and 6 targets in each of those games as well, so he's just been involved in the offense. Not a guy who has a lot of name recognition, so we're not getting a ton of projected ownership on him. And like you said, we've got positive leverage as a result.
Feels good. Feels right. Feels right. Feels good. Let's go to other ancillary options. People are asking, any Richie James love that exists in your life? I don't feel great about anything at the wide receiver position that isn't named Slayton or Hodgins from the Giants side. Oh, Kenny Galladay. He's another dude who exists, kind of, but not really. Do you want to get to either of those two fools?
I mean, in the most recent game, Rich, maybe this isn't a great indicator though, because if we saw, the way they treated Saquon Barkley, the fact that he wasn't playing, Richie James played 90%, ran routes on 90% of plays last week for the Giants. So maybe not the best indicator, not the indicator that I think it is. But the week prior, 43%. The week prior to that, 71%. So he has been running routes. I do have some interest in Richie James. He actually had 9 targets in the last game.
Jeez.
Again, maybe that isn't a great sign because it was a blowout and they weren't trying to put their studs out there. But he's been playing some. The 3 games prior to that, 3, 6, and 3 targets. It's not like he's getting 0 targets. He's out there on the field. He is targeted some, so he's clearly got the upside to score a touchdown, make a big play. We actually have some positive leverage in the captain spot. 3.1% projected ownership on Richie James. 3.9% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. A little bit of negative leverage in the util with 19.8% projected ownership, 18.5% chance of being optimal. Yeah, all of these, it's not a fun situation. None of these guys are guys that I'm like, yeah, I really want to play him because of the talent, because it's a great matchup. Like, it's a tough matchup. None of these guys are elite wide receivers, but you got to play somebody, right, from the Giants. And Saquon's really expensive. One of these guys is likely to have a good game. Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, Darius Slayton. Slayton's a little bit more expensive. One of these guys is likely to have a decent game. So I'm probably going to be mixing and matching. It's hard for me to really take a stand because they're running similar routes, they're playing similar amounts of time on the field. Um, yeah, in week 14, 90 Richie James had a 91% snap share. Isaiah Hodgins 89%, Darius Slayton 83%. Um, man, Kenny Galladay, what a
I was going to
disappointment.
say, somebody just said Kenny Galladay a captain at zero ownership. I think there's a reason for that, right?
There's clearly a reason for that. If you want to do it, I mean, this is Showdown, right? We talk. You got to get weird on Showdown. Sometimes maybe that is a way to get different, but man, it's 17% of snaps in the most recent game. Didn't even play in week 13. He's not a guy that I have a lot of confidence in. As I rely on him in a lot of best ball. He was one of my most drafted wide receivers in best ball, and he's just let me down all year. So maybe that makes him a better play because he's let everybody down all year. If you've tried doing the Kenny Galladay thing, came in with such name recognition, he's disappointed us all year. But I'd like it better if you were playing like 60% of snaps and hadn't done anything. I'd be like, sign me up. Like I'd like to take that shot, but he's just not really on the field enough that I have a ton of interest. Then again, we go back to the Saquon thing where he didn't play much in the last game because of the blowout. Maybe Kenny Galladay didn't because he's a veteran. They know what they have in him. He had played in the 3 games prior to that he had been active 38%, 43%, and 30% of snaps. So a little bit more in those games. It's not a high confidence play, but I think that he is certainly a viable play. Somebody I would have in a 150 set, not somebody I have a lot of confidence in.
All right, guys, hit the like button as we jump over to tight end. We've got 12 minutes. We'll get to kicker defense and get ourselves on out of here. If you guys have any other questions, I did have a super chat from earlier. $5 from Vinny C. Russell Gage, last minute TD. Put me in the positive. Crazy fun day for me. Appreciate what you guys do. No, we appreciate you. Appreciate the shout out as well. And congratulations, Russell Gage. That was literally all boss, man. Just called that one from the clouds. Great. I mean, it's why he's who he is. But Daniel Bellinger is somebody that I was surprised to see some negative leverage existing there. He was kind of the big piece of this game that it's all relative. It's a 1-game slate, so everything matters. But a Daniel Bellinger being active here, I think that takes away from some of the salaries that or some of the shots on Chris Myarick that I was going to take. You have a Nick Vanette as well, who exists there at 200, who I do like to get to just to get super contrarian on this kind of a slate, considering he's pulling less than 10% ownership. Probably my favorite guy at the $200 slot, which is always something I pay attention to. Anything that stands out to you at tight end from the Giants side?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm surprised to see negative leverage on Daniel Bellinger. He's out on the field so much that I do have a lot of, I mean, I shouldn't say a lot of it. I have interest in Daniel Bellinger despite the negative leverage. It's not the best matchup, and he is kind of expensive at 6,200 for this matchup. That is a bit much, but he's pretty clearly the tight end one for the Giants. He played like 90% of what did he play? He played in week 13, 97% of snaps. In his first game back after missing several games with that eye injury, came back, played 97% of snaps. In week 14, he only played 61%. But again, maybe that's just related to the fact that it was a blowout. They didn't really need him out there. I like Daniel Bellinger. I think that he's a talented rookie tight end. I think we don't have massive negative leverage there. 1.3% projected ownership in the captain spot, 1.4% optimal. 15% projected ownership in the util, 11.7% chance to be an optimal. I think he's a fine play at 6,200. I think it's the price tag that like he's more expensive than all of these other guys who will have similar opportunities. The Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins are just they're going to have similar opportunities to Daniel Bellinger, and they're a little bit cheaper, so it kind of makes sense. But I think he's a fine play at 15% ownership. I do have some interest there. As far as Nick Vanette, I was just looking at his routes run. So he actually did run 12 routes in that last game, 10 the game before that. So it's not like he's completely uninvolved in the offense. He could see some targets out. He's seen, of course, in the past 5 games, I think he's only played 5 games this year. He's seen a total of 4 targets in those 5 games. So it's not like he's a huge part of the game plan for them offensively, but he's been playing even with Daniel Bellinger out there. He's played in those past 2 games 45% and 44% of snaps. So Nick Vanette, somebody that you can at least consider playing. What do we have his ownership at? Because it is obviously dependent on ownership to the extent that I'm going to have interest in him. Yeah, 6.7% ownership. I actually think that he's a pretty, I think I'm with you. I think at 200, he's probably the most interesting $200 player.
Yep, I think he is too. I'm going to probably get to a little bit of him where I try to leave some salary on the table. You're always looking at the goal line. If you run routes by the goal line, which he has, I am going to have interest in you in a showdown where you're not, getting jammed through the moon here. So definitely something that I want to get to. Can't think of anybody else there at $200 I want to get close to. But we go over to the Washington side. Logan Thomas, John Bates. Those are really your only two. If you want to take the Cole Turner shot, that's really, really thin. I still prefer Van Epp, but talk to me about Logan Thomas and John Bates.
Yeah, I like Logan Thomas quite a bit. I think he is clearly he's a tight end he's cheaper than Daniel Bellinger, and he's in a much better matchup. He's only 5,000. We actually have positive leverage again in the captain spot, 0.9% ownership, 1.5% chance to be an optimal. He is, a very talented tight end in a great matchup. I like Logan Thomas, and I like him even better, I should say, on FanDuel. I was looking at that while we were over there. He is getting like virtually no ownership in terms of on FanDuel. Let's see, 6.9%. No, that's not right. Okay, 14% ownership. I maybe read it wrong, but still 14% ownership I think is very reasonable. He's only 7,000 on FanDuel, reasonable price tag, 14% ownership, closer to maybe where it should be. Actually, yeah, we just looking at the tools, we have him optimal 14.3% of the time, so pretty neutral. But I think that he's a pretty decent play on FanDuel as well. I thought I had read like 7% ownership, and I was like I would smash that 7% ownership on Logan Thomas in this matchup with the Giants, but I still think he's a pretty good play there as well.
Yeah, definitely would be. Guys, kicker, defense, these things really matter on Showdown. Glad to be covering them here right now. Somebody put in the comments section, if it's another double kicker night, just kill me. I felt that way a little bit in recent years, and then this year it just became jam a lot of them because they always seem to be positively leveraged. I think that's one thing that Alex Baker, our founder, Osmo, now Stokastic, he literally was ahead of the curve by a landslide in this regard. Joey Sly, 28.6% utility optimal. Even in the captain, he's coming in around that point. 5.9% captain optimal. If you are going to play a kicker in the captain spot tonight feels like a prime time to do it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a low scoring game. Not going to take that much for a kicker to be optimal. We see massive positive leverage on Joey Sly, 3.3% projected captain ownership, 5.9% chance to be an optimal. Looks great. We have positive leverage in the util as well, 24% ownership, 29% chance to be an optimal. Again, rounding there. Joey Sly looks pretty incredible for us. And then Graham Gano, what do we have? Actually positive leverage there as well. 2% projected captain ownership, 4% chance to be an optimal, 20% projected util ownership, 22.5% chance to be an optimal. So, I mean, that is the thing. As you said, Alex was way ahead of the curve. Like, he's loved these kickers on Showdown for forever, because for a long time, people were very hesitant to play kickers on Showdown. And we do
he was not
see he was not he loved playing kickers on Showdown. It was his thing, and it wasn't just a bit. He was actually doing it because kickers on Showdown are optimal a lot more than people want to play them. Typically the field has caught on a little bit now. People are more inclined to play kickers, but still we're seeing some positive leverage on both these guys. So yeah, sign me up
too. Looking forward to splitting a million ways with all of you guys in a couple of these two kicker lineups, because that seems inevitable. Shout out to Overlay everywhere today, by the way. We've got over on DK, tons of overlay going that direction. On No House Advantage, still massive overlay. Sign up, 5 minutes left. That's plenty of time to be able to make a couple more lineups. And you're not going to run into this many. You're not going to run into this much overlay on a given slate. I think maybe everybody's just sitting down there partying in New Orleans. That's got to be it, right?
For sure. That's a good point. That probably is part of it. On top of what I was saying before about like people watching their best ball and watching other stuff. I guess there's only 200 of them, right? So it can't be that much of the field, but some of them are a good number of them are 150 maxers. And who knows? Do they have the restraint to not max out while they're in New Orleans? I'm not totally sure there. I'll say this about the defenses. So the Giants have given up 44 sacks already this year. They are fifth of all teams coming into this week. So definitely we could see some sacks, particularly with Washington being a pretty solid defense. Maybe that makes me like the Washington defense even a little bit more. I don't see the Commanders have given up 37 sacks. Actually, that's not that big of a difference. So I guess that shouldn't be a huge factor for you. But the Giants have given up a little bit, 44 sacks to to 37. Yeah, not a huge difference there, I guess, when you look at the actual raw numbers as opposed to placement. Thought I had something there for a second, but not as interested as I thought it was. As far as like interceptions go, Daniel Jones has only thrown 4 all year. Doesn't not a great thing as far as wanting to play Washington, but again, they are such a great defense. I don't think that this Giants offense is anything special. I think that I'm willing to again play both of these defenses. And then of course we always want to look at the tools. What do we have there? We got Commanders at positive leverage, both spots, 5.2% projected captain ownership, 6.1% chance to be an optimal, 20.6% util ownership, 23.6% chance to be an optimal. So Commanders look great in the single game tool. The Giants, not they look very neutral. 3.3% projected ownership in the captain spot, 3.2% chance to be an optimal, 16.6% and 16.6% in the util. So looks like the Commanders. I'm actually really surprised to see the Commanders are 3,800, the Giants are 4,800. I guess it's because the Giants offense has been so much better this year, but man, I'd be a lot more inclined to play the Commanders at 3,800 than the Giants at 4,800.
I'm on board with you. Yeah, it's pretty wild to me, the discrepancy there.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking wild. Guys, we're reaching the end of our boarding walk here. I have a couple questions for Neil. I think you guys will enjoy these because, I know you guys are finishing out your lineups. Also, I'm building lineups as we go because there is so much so much overlay everywhere. Shout out Tyler Zander doing a great job behind the virtual glass per usual. In new digs, are you out and about living your life? Where are you? I don't even know where you are. You're at home? No, this is a good situation. It looks good. I
gotta pull it up.
I'm happy. I'm happy about that. These are good things for you. Neil,
well
your favorite captain play for DraftKings purposes tonight?
Man, now I'm inclined to say like Joey Sly is pretty interesting to me now that we were just talking about the positive leverage there, but that's a little bit boring. I think that Joey Sly is up there. So somebody I would certainly consider. Let me think about it just for a second here. I might go Antonio Gibson. I think 7,600 for Antonio Gibson, how involved he is as a pass. I mean, as you said, he hasn't been getting quite the targets that I think of him as getting, but still, we have positive leverage there. He's somebody I would consider up there. Man, Curtis Samuel actually looks pretty good. 5.7% ownership, 6.8% chance to be an optimal. But Joey Sly looks like the one who has the most positive leverage of anybody here. Might have to be Joey Sly.
Joey Sly season. That's a fun season. I think I can get behind that. That's a season I can get behind. I hope this Hodgins character can go completely nuts in the captain spot. That would be fun too. Dotson, talked about him a little bit earlier. And then Saquon, again, I feel like we're going to get to the flip here in 33 seconds and we're going to see just completely insane type ownership coming in there. And I'm going to be kicking myself. But you know what? Such is life. It happens.
Yeah, we'll see what the ownership is there. Let's see if I can get one more in. Probably not. I'm probably too late to try and get one more.
That's what I'm trying to do here. Nas Reed starting in the locker room. I feel only pain.
Only pain.
Nothing is real.
All right, I got one more in.
I got to get one more thing in here too. Oh, nope, I'm not going to get it in. Such is life. Guys, this is a lot of fun. Trying to build some lineups here on the fly with you guys. Had a blast. If you guys did too, hit a like button. Goes a long way for us here. Bojan went over 20 and a half. That's all that matters in my life. He's now up to 23. I'm so happy. This guy's incredible. But I'll be back covering some NBA tomorrow. Neil, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Good luck. I mean, we got, now it's the end of best ball. I guess the end of first round of best ball. First round of the playoffs of best ball, plus the end of the first round for most people of their season-long leagues. A lot riding on these games for a lot of people. So good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you so much to Tyler. Once again, he's Neil. He's got awesome shirts. I'm Eric. It's cold in LA. What can I say? We'll see you guys later.